Welcome to our hard floor series. Today is number 2. We're going to be talking about engineered floors. You know, it's always best to dry scrub when you're working with engineered floors. Now, and we like to use a surface prep pad. Of course, you're not going to be using a round one. This has a square on this square machine. That's why it's called the Squared by Orbot. It's a great machine, great addition to the vibe. You put it on there with the weights. You're going to see what it does here in a second. Now, it is optional. You can take the time and clean the floor first. Some people do that. However, just keep in mind that engineered floor has pressed wood under it, and you can have all kinds of problems with swelling and do a lot of damage to the floor. So you definitely keep that moisture down to a very minimum. Even when you're using your tack pad at the end, keep the moisture down to a minimum. Now, the reason we're using a prep pad instead of a sanding disc or something of that nature, or I should say a sanding square on this unit right here, is because you don't want swirls on the floor. All right, let me show you how the machine works now. Now, I know a lot of you guys are used to using the Vibe for encapsulation or working inside of a home or inside of a commercial building when you're cleaning carpets, and that's cool. What's nice though about this new attachment right here for hardwood floors, the squared attachment, is now you can just pop on a vacuum on here. You see the hoses on there, the little head, the weights, and then it's got a different plate under there. It's only like a few screws that pops it right into place. So I love the portability of it and the versatility of it. So you can just switch from one unit to the next. You got the HEPA vacuum built right on there, so that's pretty cool. All right, so let's take a look at it. All you do, you start it. Now I like to check the vacuum. Make sure your vacuum is good. Great. Got a powerful vacuum. Cut the machine on. If you want to tilt it back just slightly, I mean ever so slightly, get it going, that's fine. But it's really nice and easy to use. You can already see what it's doing. It's abrading the floor real quickly and evenly. I really like that. And you don't see a lot of dust flying around because it's got the little skirt on there. Or your dust apron, whatever you want to call it. I think they call it a skirt. Look how easily I'm abrading this floor. And what the abrasion does is gets the floor ready for the coating so it would adhere better. You'll get the maximum appearance and durability out of it. Okay, we're now ready to go ahead and get our microfiber mop, wet it out, tack this up. It'll be ready to go. I'll tell you what, I am amazed at the quality of this unit and the ease of it. Geez, how easy it is. You know, it just can't be no simpler than it was. You know, basically with the old 175 machines, you swing and you're swinging side to side. Now you're just kind of pushing back and forth like a lawnmower. You're not even breaking a sweat. Anybody could use it. It's just so simple to use. And how cool is it that it's 2 machines in one? I mean, you can be using this for hard surfaces and soft surfaces. Tell you what, they knocked this out of the park. This is a true game changer. If you get a chance to pick one of these up, get the Squared from Orbot. Pro tip, let's talk about aluminum oxide. I know that strikes fear in a lot of the hearts of cleaners or restorers, but it doesn't have to. Just remember what it is. It's a hard particulate wear coating that comes from the factory. It comes to protect it from scratches or give it that mar resistance. Comes on hardwood sometimes that are pre-finished. Comes on engineered, laminate, LVT, LVP. Now it varies in different levels of quality depending on the manufacturer and the price that you're spending. The good news is you don't have to be afraid of it. Why? Because Refinishing is designed and formulated to adhere to aluminum oxide floors. So just go through the process that we show you and you're going to have great success. Now, what are engineered floors? A lot of people don't understand what they are. It's basically a dimensional stable plywood under a thin veneer or a hardwood top. And on these type of floors right here, these are ideal for screen or scrub and recoat. Because basically what you're doing is you're taking off that coat and not the veneer. It's really important. Now, going through this type of floor right here is almost completely the same as the hardwood floor with a couple of little variations I'm going to break down and give you some pro tips and tricks again. But of course, you're going to go through that walkthrough. You're going to set those expectations, and then you're going to test for topicals. All right, then you're going to clean, dull, and dry. Always remember that, clean, dull, and dry, or any variation of that. That's what you're trying to accomplish to get the floor ready. That way you can go ahead and finish them. All right, let's get started. Okay, now we're going to get started with the walkthrough and setting those expectation levels. It's very important to go ahead and set those expectation levels because if you don't, it might come back to haunt you at the end of the job. What are you looking for? Well, you're looking for scratches. You're looking for deep cuts or something of that nature, and you're looking for wear and tear. You have to explain to the client this will greatly enhance the floors, but it won't make them perfect. And then sometimes you might have some wear and tear that's reached down to bare floors. If that's the case, you might have to have some sealer put down. Also, if you find a topical on top of the floor, if you did a micro test, remember you're going to have to use a stripper, and you want to keep it to a limited amount of moisture when you're working with strippers. Always keep that in mind. Keep moisture to a limit, to as low as possible when you're working with hardwood floors. On top of it, it's always a good idea to speed dry it too. Just like the hardwood floor that we started off with, it's actually very simple to do a test for topicals. All you do is take a 1:4 pre-mix of your stripper, of course the Refinishing stripper. And what's nice about the Refinishing stripper, it really is a safer chemistry product, and it's a lower pH product, but yet it's very effective. It'll break through and get rid of even urethane fortified waxes. So that shows how good of a product it is. So all you do is take and put a little bead on the floor and just wait about 5 minutes. And if you see it turn milky white, more than likely there's a topical in there, and you're going to have to go through the stripping process, and you need to charge the customer accordingly, because it's going to take you more time and more materials, and they'll understand that. It's also important to take the time and ask the client, Mrs. Jones, have you used anything on the floors? Have you applied anything to the floors? Have you had a maid surface come in? You are looking for all these types of different scenarios, even window cleaners or pest control operators. They could be applying some things to the floors that might make it difficult for your product to adhere, so you want to definitely use a stripper, and you want to go through this testing process. Okay, step one, of course, you want to take, just like we did with the hardwood floors, you want to take and sweep it real well. Last thing you want is any little pebbles or debris on the floor that can cause any scratches. You're not trying to double up on your work. So take time, sweep it well, and then move on to the next step of the process. Okay, so that's how you dry prep the floor, but let's suppose the floor is really in bad shape. It's got a lot of dirt and muck or maybe even grease on there. Well, then you want to take the time and mix up some multi-purpose cleaner from our Refinishing line, and that'll be mixed 1 to 4 because you want to mix it heavy. If you're just using it just for routine clean, it only takes a couple of ounces, but 1 to 4 when you really need to do that deep scrub and recoat or screen and prep. So basically what you want to do is mix it up, put it in a sprayer, put a fine mist down on top of there. Take your machine, go ahead and hook up your prep pad, and just go on over top of the floor, and you're good to go. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and tack the floor, and some guys like to use a tack cloth, and that's fine. I prefer to tack cleaner. Use a tack cleaner, put a nice little mist on it, take my microfiber mop, go over it twice. Why do I do that? I really want to get all this dust and debris off there, so that way I know all my product adheres, and I get maximum performance. Crank this bad boy up here. Okay, of course my cleaner is going to be the Refinishing cleaner, which is our multi-purpose cleaner, and you're going to be using about 4 to 6 ounces per gallon. Now, I like to take and go over the second time to tack it also. I'll go ahead and take off the first microfiber pad. I'll put another one on there. I want to really get over this thing and really get it super clean, and then I'm going to get it really nice and dry, and that way I'm going to get optimal performance out of my product. Okay, now you can go ahead and speed dry the floor. I recommend running the air mover on low and not on high, especially if you're concerned about a dust contamination issue. And if you really feel like there's a dust contamination issue, rather than using an air mover, you might want to just take your microfiber mop, take a dry one, take a dry microfiber, go over the floor and get it nice and dry. All right, the floor now is clean, it's dulled, it's ready to be coated, but just don't forget, anything that's on this floor right here will be on that floor after you coat it. So make sure you do it correctly, get it clean, dulled, and ready to go. Now it's time to finish them. All right, now here's a pro tip. You've done taking the time, got all the dust and everything off the floor. Last thing you want to do is add it with your T-bar. So what can you do? You want to make sure you don't have any dust or any fuzz on here. So here's the tip. Go ahead, take a little bit of painter's tape, work your way down it, and he'll show you at the bottom of this tape here, and there won't be nothing left on this bad boy, and you're good to go. All right, I want to let you know ahead of time, using a T-bar takes a lot of finesse and some practice, and some guys actually never get it. So is there an easier alternative? Yes, there is. Let me show you. Okay, the alternative is to roll the floor and cut the edges in with a little edger like this. It's really super simple. I'm going to show you a dry run and you can see what I'm talking about. So what I like to do is I'll go ahead and I'll get myself a bucket that's shaped oblong like this right here. I'll put my product in there, and I really like using a liner. That way I just throw the liner away when I'm done. So I'll just dip it in there. I'm going to go back to the farthest part of the room, and I'm going to cut in the corners and the edges. Notice how easy that is. Cut them in. Boom. This keeps me from having the roller, or if I was using the T-bar, from hitting the baseboards. Okay, once I'm done with that, I'll grab my roller, dip my roller in a little bit, come on over here, and then I'll roll it in. See how much easier that is? And I like a long bar. That way I can cover a bigger area if I want to. And I'll work my way up without hitting the baseboards. And look how easy that is. Just dip it in, keep right on going. Just make sure you just put a nice even coat on, and you're good to go. If you want to flip it over here when you get closer to this edge, you can. So you notice as I'm backing up, I'll dip it again, come in there, and as I'm getting over to the other edge, I'm going to flip it over again and work myself right up to the edge. I just don't want any haloing, and I don't want no outline on the floor. I'm going to tell you what, using a roller is fast, it's easy, and the learning curve is nil to none. All right, the first coat is now applied, and you want to wait 90 minutes just like you did with the hardwood floor in the beginning of the series, number one. You want to take and give it 90 minutes. Now, in that meantime, you can go ahead, pack up some of your stuff, go get some lunch, come on back, double check it, make sure it's dry. Remember, you know, weather conditions, humidity, temperature, all that can affect your drying time. So make sure it's not tacky, it's dry, and it's ready to go for the next coat. Take some plastic, wrap it over top of your T-bar. That way it'll stay nice and damp and be ready to go for that second coat when you get back from lunch. All right, the floor now is not tacky. 90 minutes have elapsed, really in good shape, it's ready to go. Now, before I apply the second coat, I want you to notice how glossy it looks. Don't get worried, this is still a satin product. It will dry down over the next 72 hours, right down to a nice matte finish. Make sure you clear that with a customer and let them know that it takes about 72 hours and not to get worried. Even after you put the second coat on there, you're not going to have a problem. As a matter of fact, early on you should have set the expectation levels and mentioned which sheen the client preferred, and also you want to steer them to the right sheen. Why do I say that? Because you don't want them to have a high gloss when they've got pets and they've got scratches and all this stuff's going to show up. Instead, we found 90% of clients prefer a satin, and so do we. So I always recommend a satin or a matte, especially when they have pets.